911. What's your emergency? I can't get up. I've fallen and I can't get up. My voice cracked, the humiliation burning worse than the searing pain in my thigh. After 3 attempts to stand, I'd finally accepted the unthinkable. At 50, 2 years old, I was that person from the medical alert commercials, helpless on the floor of my own home. Sir, are you injured? Are you bleeding? No, my legs won't work. The admission squeezed my chest, making it hard to breathe. I was just walking to the kitchen when they gave out. I'd been alone for only 2 hours. Angela had kissed me goodbye, reminded me about the casserole in the refrigerator, and headed off to her sister's for their monthly book club. Now here I was, sprawled on our hardwood floor, the neighbor's dog barking outside as if mocking my predicament. Help is on the way, sir. Try to stay calm. Stay calm? As if calm was possible when I, a man who once hiked the entire Appalachian Trail over a summer break in college, couldn't stand up in my own living room without assistance. This wasn't a random accident. This was the culmination of a decline I'd been ignoring for months. The truth I'd been avoiding crashed through my consciousness with the subtlety of a wrecking ball. I was becoming my father. Damn it, I hissed, more from embarrassment than pain as I looked around to see if any neighbors had witnessed my fall. At 52, I prided myself on staying active weekend hikes. The occasional game of tennis with my sonbutt lately, my body had been betraying me in small, frightening ways. This wasn't the first time my legs had given out. 3 weeks ago, I'd struggled to climb the stairs at work, pausing halfway up as my quadriceps burned, with an intensity that left me breathless. Last week, I'd had to ask for help carrying boxes during my daughter's college move-in day boxes I could have easily managed just a year ago. Inside, I lowered myself onto the couch, massaging my thigh. My phone buzzed. A text from my wife, Angela. Meeting running late. Will be home around 8. Leftovers in fridge. I was alone with my thoughts, and they weren't good company. My father had lost his mobility in his early 60s muscle atrophy, the doctors had called it. I had watched the proud man who once built decks and hiked mountains become confined to a wheelchair, dependent on others for the most basic tasks. That's not going to be me, I whispered to the empty room. My laptop sat on the coffee table. I pulled it onto my lap and typed, leg muscles weakening middle age. The search results were a parade of horrors, ALS, MS, muscular dystrophy. My heart raced as I scrolled through symptom lists, checking off boxes in my mind. The doorbell rang, startling me from my spiral of medical doom scrolling. Through the peephole, I saw my neighbor, Dr. Eliza Chen, holding my scattered groceries in a reusable bag. Thought you might want these back, she said when I opened the door. You okay? That looked like a nasty fall. I forced a smile. Just clumsy. Thanks for picking these up. Eliza's eyes narrowed. She'd been a physical therapist for 30 years before retiring last spring. Your gait's off, and that's not the first time I've noticed. What's going on? Something about her direct question broke through my facade. My legs, they're not what they used to be. Getting weaker. I'm scared, Eliza. I hadn't admitted that to Angela, not my doctor during my annual physical 3 months ago when I'd brushed off the leg fatigue as probably just overdoing it at the gym. Come on, Eliza said, stepping inside. Let's talk. An hour later, I had a plan. No WebMD diagnosis. No fatalistic acceptance of decline. Just practical advice from someone who'd helped thousands of patients strengthen their bodies. You're sarcopenic? Eliza explained. Age. Related muscle loss. It happens to everyone, but it's accelerated by inactivity, poor nutrition, and stress. The good news? It's reversible. She'd written down 6 specific foods on a notepad. Salmon, wild caught, for omega-3s and protein. Eggs, whole eggs, not just whites. Greek yogurt, full fat, not the sugary stuff. Sweet potatoes, complex carbs for energy. Spinach, for magnesium and iron. Blueberries, antioxidants to reduce inflammation. This isn't a miracle cure, Eliza cautioned. You'll need resistance training too. Start small body weight exercises, then gradually add resistance. And you need to get your testosterone checked. Low T can contribute to muscle loss. I stared at the list. Such simple solutions seemed inadequate against the fear that had been growing inside me. And this will work? It worked for me, Eliza said, standing up and rolling up her pant leg to reveal a defined calf muscle. I was headed for a walker at 65. Now I'm hiking mountains at 72. After she left, I sat motionless, the list in my hand. Angela would be home in an hour. I could show her the list, explain my fears, admit my weakness. Or I could hide it, like I'd been doing. Pretend everything was fine until it wasn't anymore. With a deep breath, I stood up carefully, testing my balance and walked to the kitchen. I opened the refrigerator and surveyed its contents. Diet soda, processed lunch meat, pre-packaged snacks. Nothing from Eliza's list. I grabbed my keys, wincing at the soreness in my knee from the fall. One more trip to the grocery store, a real one this time. As I backed out of the driveway, my phone rang. The screen displayed my daughter's name, Emily. Dad? Her voice was tight with emotion. Grandpa's in the hospital. They think it's a stroke. The same grandfather who had lost his mobility. The same path I had been terrified of following. I'm on my way, I said, turning toward the hospital instead of the grocery store. The list of 6 foods would have to wait. Chapter 2. The Climb. The fluorescent lights of the hospital room cast harsh shadows across my father's face. At 82, Harold Baker looked small and fragile in the oversized bed, a network of tubes and wires connecting him to beeping machines. The stroke had affected his left side, the doctor explained. With therapy, he might regain some function, but at his age, with his history of muscle deterioration, I heard the unspoken prognosis in the doctor's trailing sentence. My father would never leave this bed, never stand on his own again. You should go home, get some rest, my mother said, patting my hand. There's nothing you can do standing around here. But I couldn't leave. Not yet. I pulled up a chair and sat beside the bed, watching the shallow rise and fall of his chest. I don't want to end up like this, I whispered. My father's eyes fluttered open. Like what? The words were slurred but clear enough. I hadn't realized my father was awake. I didn't mean. Weak? Helpless? His undamaged right hand gripped the bed rail. You think I wanted this? That I didn't fight against it? Dad, You're still young enough, he interrupted. Don't make my mistakes. I was too proud to change, too set in my ways. I thought about the list Eliza had given me, still folded in my pocket. What would you have done differently? His laugh turned into a wheezing cough. Everything. Eaten better. Moved more. Listen to your mother when she tried to get me to see that fancy nutritionist. He closed his eyes. Too late for me. Not for you. I sat with those words long after my father had drifted back to sleep. At midnight, I drove home to find Angela waiting up, concerned about both me and my father. I showed her Eliza's list, expecting skepticism. Instead, she pulled out her tablet and started researching recipes. Tomorrow we clean out the pantry, she said. No more excuses. The next morning, I woke to a text from my mother. My father had suffered a second stroke in the night. He was gone. The following weeks passed in a blur of funeral arrangements, well-meaning casseroles from neighbors, and the administrative nightmare of death certificates and will executions. The list stayed folded in my wallet, untouched. 1 month after the funeral, I found myself alone in my parents' house, sorting through my father's belongings. In the closet of the master bedroom, behind a row of suits my father would never wear again, I found a small gym bag. Inside, resistance bands, still in their original packaging, and a dog-eared book titled Reversing Sarcopenia After 60. He had tried, or at least had wanted to try. Something broke open inside me. I sank to the floor of the closet and sobbed for my father, for my own fear, for the time wasted in denial. When I finally composed myself, I pulled out my phone and called Eliza. I'm ready, I said when she answered. Show me what to do. The next morning, I found myself in Eliza's garage, converted into a modest home gym. We'll start with the basics, she said, demonstrating a simple squat. No weights, just body resistance. My legs shook after just 10 repetitions. Sweat beaded on my forehead. Now, Eliza said, handing me a protein shake made with Greek yogurt and blueberries, we fuel the muscles we just worked. That evening, Angela prepared salmon with sweet potatoes and spinach. To new beginnings, she said, raising her water glass in a toast. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The changes were subtle. At first, less fatigue, climbing stairs, more energy throughout the day. By month 3, I'd added light dumbbells to my routine. By month 6, I was doing full workouts 4 times a week and had incorporated all 6 of Eliza's recommended foods into my daily diet. On the 1-year anniversary of my father's death, I stood at the base of Sentinel Peak. The 5-mile trail had been our tradition once-seen annual father-son hike that had ended when his legs could no longer manage the terrain. "You sure about this?" Angela asked, adjusting her backpack. She'd joined my fitness journey 6 months in, surprised by the changes she'd seen in me. I looked up at the path ahead, steep in places, challenging throughout. "I'm sure," I said, taking the first step. 3 hours later, we reached the summit. My legs burned, but it was the satisfying burn of exertion, not the frightening weakness of deterioration. Standing on the peak where I'd last stood with my father 15 years ago, I pulled out the worn list from my wallet and let the wind take it. I didn't need it anymore. The 6 foods were now simply part of my life, not a desperate grasp at avoiding my father's fate. I understood now what he had meant in the hospital room. It wasn't about avoiding weakness at all costs, but about making choices while you still could. As I gazed across the valley below, I felt my phone vibrate. A text from Emily. "Just got my blood work back. Doctor says my vitamin D is low, and I'm showing early signs of osteopenia. Any advice?" The cycle of deterioration could end with me. Taking a deep breath of mountain air, I began typing a response to my daughter. This time, I knew exactly what to say. "Let's talk. I've learned a few things that might help."